Hi, I'm Adam Saad, here to bring you the latest trends in B2B software and technology for sales, service, and IT professionals. Today, we're talking about how to maximize your investment and use of Salesforce. Today, we have a very special guest with us who lives and breathes success with Salesforce. This is the Tech Stack Show. Salesforce is the world's greatest platform to help organizations connect with their customers across sales, customer service, marketing, and everything in between. And my guest today is a director of customer success, working with some of Salesforce's largest customers. Earl LaChance has over 25 years of experience in consulting and delivery of strategic global IT projects in the US and Latin America. Earl's focus is customer relationship management, marketing automation, and business intelligence. As a Salesforce Customer Success Director, Earl is responsible for ensuring the success of Salesforce's enterprise customers. He brings Salesforce's best ideas, innovations, and capabilities to a portfolio of customers and matches these to the customer's business goals, driving greater business value and executive alignment on the strategic use of the Salesforce platform. Earl, your credentials and experience speak for themselves. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us on the Tech Stack Show.
You're welcome. My pleasure to be here, Adam.
Earl, can you explain to the audience exactly what a customer success manager does?
Sure. It's a very interesting position and role. But what we're doing here is we're focused on return on investment. We want to make sure that the customer is seeing as much value as possible based on their investment in their CRM system.
Sweet, makes total sense. And when you go into these customers, what do you feel like the biggest challengers customers face today when using a platform like this?
Right. So there are two main challenges that the customers have when they make this large investment. Number one is getting the right just-in-time training. So we have the training that we talk about with best practices and expert guidance, technical guidance for their IT teams. So the challenge is to make sure that their teams are well-versed, know the best practices, understand how to build out their CRM system with an eye on eliminating any future technical debt. So that is one of the major challenges. We want to make sure the customer team is fully trained, has the expertise to implement correctly within the confines of their business priorities and their requirements. Secondly, is the challenge would be the end user adoption. A lot of companies go in, they make this large investment, they do the best practices IT training, but they wait until the very end to look at the end user training. And this becomes a very defined challenge because without that adoption, the company will not realize the value of their CRM investment without making sure that all of their business units are properly trained, the automation's in place, and therefore their end users, the business users, can see the true value of CRM.
I think those are mutually dependent and they happen almost linearly, right? You have to train first, you have to train all the stakeholders first, and then with the proper training, that will drive adoption, right?
Exactly. And that's why it's all about the knowledge transfer. If you have to look at it in the lens of, the CFO or the CEO, they're making a very large investment. So you have to make not only that technology investment, but the people investment. That's probably equally, if not more important, to make sure that you have a successful implementation.
Yeah, and you mentioned the CEO and a big investment. Who do you think the major stakeholders are that a company should assign to projects like these?
Well, you always start at the top. You have to have this commitment and buy-in from that C-level. Whether we're talking about marketing automation, we talk about the CMO and the CMO suite. We want to make sure that we have the buy-in, the full support, full commitment from that CMO organization when we talk about marketing programs. As well, when you look at the COO, or the Chief Operations Officer, we look at how are they supporting their contact center? How are they supporting their agents to make sure that they see this support from the top level? Therefore, it's going to trickle down and give that push and that drive to make sure the adoption's there. And then, of course, you have the sales side of the house where we want to make sure that we're providing the right tools and the right functionality so that the sales team can do their job, close more deals, keep that pipeline full, have accurate forecasting. But when it comes down to it, Adam, we want to make sure that we have that top-down approach. We want to make sure we have full support from that C-suite, and that's going to drive and give the folks their drive to adopt and their drive to use this platform.
So it's a full team effort, and what you're saying is leaders need to lead from the front and lead the charge and the culture change and the change management that happens when an organization chooses to change platforms to something like the Salesforce
It
platform.
does, Adam. And I'll tell you though, it does have some bottom up though. Okay. So when you look at things like automation, when you really look at the true value and get that adoption, that is something that comes from the bottom up. Okay. So because the C levels are not going to know the minutia, they're not going to know the fine details of these processes, whether it's a sales process, marketing campaign, journey management, whether it's contact center management. However, that's where we need the lower level management to make sure that they have the buy-in, that they're giving their time, which is very important, that they're investing their time to make sure that the business priorities and requirements are aligned such that we can do and implement automations to make the job easier for the folks on the ground. So it's really about a cross-team commitment from the top to the bottom, whereby certain strategic initiatives come from the top. Everyone is singing the same song, marching to the same drummer. But in the same token, there is some bottom up. We have to make sure that the folks are enabled at the operations level to have the time and budget to implement automations, workflows to make sure that makes their constituents, their jobs easier.
Yeah, I mean, so it is a full team effort, and to me, what this kind of sounds like is a little bit of a center of excellence. Do you typically recommend your customers build center of excellence around something like the Salesforce platform?
It depends on the size of the enterprise, the size of the company. When you have a very large enterprise, absolutely. The center of excellence, the governance, these practices are absolutely critical to making sure that they get the most value out of their investment. You want to have structure. We want to make sure that we have the best practices ongoing, not just at the outset, not just in the initial implementation. We want to make sure that with the center of excellence, we're driving best practices on all of these different releases. It's not a one and done exercise, Adam. You're going to have new requirements, have new business priorities, have these business functionalities that you need to implement. And having that center of excellence ensures that structure and discipline to continue on that path of best practice, of high value.
I love it. And I know each customer is different, but are there any one-size-fits-all KPIs that you believe customers should look at to measure the health of their investment?
There are some overarching KPIs to consider. So when you look at sales, let's look at sales operations. When it used to be Salesforce automation, SFA back in the day. You have the basics. We have our lead conversion rates. Are our leads quality? Are they being converted to opportunities? Really important that a lot of folks overlook is the intelligence that goes around forecasting. Do we have the proper data to give our financial group, to give our leadership team a good idea of what's in the forecast? It's not just pipeline. You can have a gigantic pipeline. If nothing's closing, then it doesn't do anyone much good. It spends a lot of sales agents' times without a lot of closure. So having the business intelligence integrated as a KPI, to drive your KPIs, to get better information about your progress and about your forecasts is absolutely critical in the Salesforce automation side. When you get to the contact center, the old school KPIs such as average call handle time, they've been around forever. They will be around because you want to maximize the use of your agent's time. However, we need to start looking at KPIs such as customer satisfaction. An interaction with the customer may take longer and it may be appropriate. So going with just that old school mentality of just average call handle time or how many cases were closed by agent during this day or that day, you really may be missing the mark in today's customer experience focused economy. So you want to have KPIs around interactions. How many interactions does it take to close a case? What are the channels used? Is it via chat? Is it via SMS text? Is it via CTI or your call center, the traditional sense? Look at chatbots. What's our efficacy with chatbots in doing case avoidance? Are we solving customers' issues before they go and create a case when we talk about the service area of CRM? So Adam, there's a lot of different ways to look at KPIs nowadays, and much of it will depend on the maturity level of that enterprise. But definitely the considerations of business intelligence, of the workflow, of monitoring channel communications and interactions, forecasting, these are all top of mind for me.
Totally. And I think, every department, you alluded to this, every department is going to have their own set of KPIs. But from the top down, I think one of the big KPIs is going to be just overall adoption and overall customer experience across all those touch points. What do you think?
Yes, Adam. So, I mean, there's adoption on three sides that we mentioned earlier for clarity. You have the IT adoption with getting their training in IT, their best practices, and getting them to be being innovative, using innovation as they implement the business requirements. There's adoption for the end users to make sure that they're actually, it's the old the carrot and the stick analogy, right? We want to make sure that there's a carrot. They want to log in. I know in your former career, Adam, different roles you've played, you want to create a system that the sales agents want to log into. Hey, I want to wake up and look at my phone or tablet and say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to close these 3 deals today. I got these calls to make. I want to give them those dashboards, give them that BI that says these are the most likely to close. So pushing adoption is by using the latest data, the latest information. It really comes down to a lot of the business intelligence. Make use of the data to get that adoption. And then finally, you have customer adoption. Are your customers just picking up the phone? Are you the type that calls into the company and just hits 0 repeatedly trying to get to an agent? We want to be able to service the customer in the manner they want to be serviced. So are they adopting the practices? For example, Amazon has great examples of when, they misshipped an item to me. I actually noticed it was a chatbot. I went through the chatbot and they resent me this inexpensive item. No hassle. I didn't have to talk to anyone. The chatbot took care of my issue. And they resent this tool adapter I was waiting for. And building some things in my garage. And that chatbot made it easy. It helped. Now that increased customer adoption. So that's why it's very important that we separate the different types of adoption that we deal with in enterprise system implementations.
I love your story because I think a lot of, especially from a customer service perspective, leaders are focusing on customer satisfaction. They're focusing on NPS and likelihood to recommend the service. But what you touched on is something that I think is so interesting, and that's customer effort. How easy it is for a customer to receive service. And that's going to, just like you said, that's going to drive adoption.
Exactly. And it's really not even about the ease, Adam. I would actually augment. I would add to that. It's about having the channel available that the customer wants. How does the customer want to interact with you? My mom, she's up in Boston still, and she's not going to want to deal with a chatbot. Let's be frank. She's going to want to get on the phone and talk to somebody. And so you have to make sure you have those old-fashioned channels for the folks that prefer to speak to a human. That's fine. But in today's day and age, the millennials, the Gen Z, all these different groups that we talk about being enabled on technology, we need to make sure we have the interaction channels available. Check-in, when we talk about travel and hospitality and leisure at a hotel. I don't necessarily want to get on my phone and do a chatbot. That's a pain. I'd rather do SMS text, be able to check in, give me a text number that I have in the email saying text this number when you arrive. That's the channel of preference for me when I arrive at the hotel or the timeshare, for example. So it's really about having the channels established so that the customer can interact with you in the manner in which they choose to.
I love it. And I totally agree. And I think it's up for, it's up to each company to audit the channels that they provide today and then do a customer audit. Who is our customer demographic and how do they want to be communicated with? And I've seen great organizations survey their customers. Hey, we provide phone, we provide chat. We are thinking about providing this other channel. Would you use it if we provide it? And that's called getting the voice of the customer, which, so I think you and I are totally on the same page there.
Absolutely, Adam. And that leads full circle back to your KPI question. It depends on maturity. If you're a small company, and you're implementing an enterprise-wide CRM system or marketing system, it really will depend on where you are. Because a lot of these folks that, if you're a smaller company, you might not have the option of a large call center. You might have to look at different channels that fit your business model. And those could be part of your KPIs. You roll out something, and maybe you misunderstood your audience. And rolling out chatbots got everyone excited. And the younger folks that are technology savvy wanted to roll this out. And you're missing the mark because your audience doesn't want to interact with you that way. So all this comes back to that KPI, understanding your business, understanding your customer, understanding the technology enablers so that you can meet that need.
Yeah, I love it. Earl, let's get our hands dirty here. It's not enough to know, but let's talk about knowing how to do it. So Earl, what is one piece of advice you could give to any Salesforce customer to improve their use and success with the platform today?
Right. So number one, so on any large CRM implementation or partner that you have, leverage your experts. Okay. Leverage the use of whether they have architects or specialists in that cloud or that piece of functionality. There's a lot of offerings that will help get you that knowledge quickly, get you the best practice information, and that is something that can't be understated in the beginning. Don't go it alone. There's an ecosystem out there, whether it's system integrators, whether it's the company that you purchase from. Leverage those resources. They're the ones that know best. They've done it before. What this will do is, it may seem like it's an expenditure, but it's an investment. It's an investment in maintenance in the future to bring down that total cost of ownership, to bring down that technical debt, to allow you to be innovative and implement more functionality in the future. So that is one area that I definitely recommend for all of our larger customers as they go down the path of CRM and marketing automation.
I love it. And you and I have actually experienced this in my past life. And when you and I work together, we've been in organizations that have tenure, employees with tenure of 20, 25 years experience in their companies, and they want to go it alone. But what we tell our customers that want to go it alone is, you know your company really well. You have 15, 20, 25 years experience in your company. Great. Take what you know about your company and share that with your partners, whether it's the vendor or your systems integrator, and together you can really maximize your investment.
Exactly. And that's about, marrying the two, the historical knowledge, the company knowledge with that technology expertise. That's one way that, it has to be transparent, open, a really solid collaborative relationship so that you can get to that next stage in your project.
Totally. Well, let's summarize for the audience, Earl. So if we're going to summarize, what are your top 3 tips for customers to maximize their use and investment in Salesforce?
Right. So number one, let's go back to what you just mentioned. Get a partner, especially when you have a large investment. It makes sense to have that extra expenditure to make sure that you have the experts with you. You have that training for your team that will be maintaining it for the future. Make sure you have access to the right technical expertise for that platform. Part 2 about value is make sure you're using everything you bought. Right now, it doesn't mean it has to be big bang. You don't have to boil the ocean. We have 100 of those sayings here in the consulting realm. But make sure you have a roadmap. Say, all right, we're going to start out with Salesforce automation. We're going to manage leads and opportunities, multi-channel, forecasting, business intelligence. Great, let's get that off the mark. Then we're going to move on to, say, the contact center. Okay. Then we're going to move on to implementing CTI and omni-channel with text, SMS, chatbots, etc. Then we're going to use customer-facing communities where you expose some of your CRM information, like cases, so that a customer like me, like for example, when they didn't send me the proper tool that I ordered from Amazon, I go create my own case, follow the status, and I don't even have to interact with any of your agents. The idea here, though, is that you're going to have a roadmap where you implement all of what you bought. I've seen way too many times in my experience over the 24 years I've done this, where people are using 20, 40, 60% of what they bought. And they have so much more opportunity to get more value out of something they already own. So that's a really important message, Adam, is that for the folks to look at it and not, again, we don't want to boil the ocean all at once, but have a roadmap where you can roll out all of these areas that you've invested in. So that's an important point. And then finally, training. Whether it's the IT, whether it's your end users, or if it's your customer. Make sure that the customer understands how to get help and the different mechanisms and channels. That is a form of training. If you think about it, you're training your end customer. Your agents and your sales reps on the inside, how's the best way to use the system? How do they surface and get the data they need? Teach them how to use it so they get the value and they do their job better, more efficient, more revenue. Whether it's cross-sell, upsell, whether it's initial sale, customer acquisition, or customer retention. How do we use the system to the best possibility, the best method and the best capabilities? Make sure they know to do it. And then finally, your IT group, which we mentioned earlier. Make sure that they have the latest and greatest knowledge on how to implement, how to innovate. A lot of what these large enterprise CRM companies offer, is very generic. So you're going to want people that know how to customize it, know how to build the innovation on top of that platform. When it comes back to it, as a success manager and a success group, it's all about value. We want to see the customer get the most value possible, the most return on investment. And these are a number of ways, Adam, that they can look at it.
Fantastic. So from the best customer success person I know, Earl LaChance, 3 tips. Number 1, get a good partner. Number 2, have a roadmap, short and long-term roadmap. And number 3, train your internal and external stakeholders. Earl, thank you so much. That was fantastic. I know the audience got a lot of value. Thank you so much for being on the Tech Stack Show.
Excellent. My pleasure to be here, Adam. Thank you again.